Yes, so everybody, today I'm speaking with Almir Colan, who's the director of Australian Center for Islamic Finances and the CEO at Olive Investments. He's also an advisor to a number of institutions that provide Islamic finances. And previously, Almir was a consultant lecturer and board member for the Master of Islamic Banking and Finance course at La Trobe University. So thank you so much for stopping by, Almir.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Yes, and today I want to dive deeper into the wisdom behind the prohibition of riba. But before we go into that, maybe you can give us some introduction into how did you get involved in Islamic finances, because there's not many people really talking about this issue online. I haven't found many, at least from my research. So you're one of the few ones who stand out. And I think it's really important for Muslims to understand this, for born Muslims and reverts as me. So I accepted Islam just earlier this year. So I want to educate myself as well. So maybe we can talk about your background just briefly. How did you get involved into Islamic finances? Maybe you can talk also if you're a born Muslim or a revert, and we can start like that.
Yeah, thank you. Myself, I was born in Bosnia, so born in a Muslim family. At that time, there was a communism in that period. So we were kind of traditional Muslims. My grandmother was mainly practicing, so we grew up undercover Muslims, so we couldn't openly do a lot of things until the war started. And a little bit before war started in 90s, we started to see more shift towards openly people practicing Islam. And so I remember going to like local mosques just before the war, Ramadan, praying with friends, and we would learn a little bit. But just like teenagers, you look at different religions, different philosophies, and you try to understand what do you really believe in. So everything, I looked philosophy, Hare Krishna, Christianity, everything. But Islam sort of made most sense, and reading books and so on. At that time, we didn't have much internet, so mainly it was books. So I started getting more sense that some of the difficult questions were answered within the Islamic framework. And then it started its own journey, learning and listening tapes, cassette, those days, audio tapes mainly. Talking to people, meeting people. And then when I moved to Australia, basically what happened is that, you go to your local mosques, you have your local teachers, suddenly certain topics become more interesting than others. I got very interested in topics under management field. So your leadership, your organization of different kind of resources and so on. So I was quite interested in these idea how the society runs and how do we do certain things. And one of the topics that again stand out and quite was interesting because it was intriguing was about these financial dealings. And so I started questioning that, started learning, trying to figure out what is the principle, especially about riba and things like that. And then this whole world started opening up. Not many people were doing it, so I had to find answers, to travel, to ask, to figure it out. And a lot of people were asking questions. Then as soon as you start discovering something, everybody want to ask you some questions, and then you take more and more responsibility to try to figure out what's happening. And I think throughout this time, my understanding, of course, evolved into more broader picture, where even until today, we're trying to really frame what Islam really wants us in a three-dimensional world, not just one snapshot that is a limited view, like you have a small picture, but what is the larger piece? And so that is something through experience evolves in your mind. You started with experience and age and knowledge, you fill the picture. And so Yeah, that's how I started, and it's still going.
Yeah, it's funny you're from Bosnia because I've just read Ali Izetbegovic book, The President, on Islam between East and West, and it's really interesting. And yeah, I myself, I have two companies, so I'm an entrepreneur, and so I'm very interested in this topic because from the outside looking in, sounds crazy, the prohibition of riba. Like, what do you mean by this? If as a non-Muslim looking at this, but then yeah, we can maybe go more into that for people who do not know what riba means. It's interest, basically. And could you maybe explain? I saw one of your videos where you kind of explain this in more detail on an example from the loans for homes in the US back in 2008, what happened there. And that's a really good example to explain the kind of the wisdom and the effects of riba. But if you have anything else, how you want to talk about it, maybe we can just explain it to people what is riba and how it's created, and what's the wisdom behind prohibiting this sort of financial practices.
So when you look at economy as a piece, it is basic. Economics is really about causes and effect. So something happens and then a reaction is this. And economics as a study area really study this. This is the core of economics, the choices that we are making and what is the outcomes. And so it comes down that the link is what sort of incentives are we creating in any system. So if I open the door to this, then if I have 10 doors, and if I open one, then everybody will go through that door. So incentive and my mind should tell me that if I want people to go through the third door, I shouldn't open the fifth door. I should open the third door, because while we cannot predict behavior of individuals, we can predict a group behavior. I don't know what you're going to do, but as a group of people, if this happens, these will be the outcomes. So Islam puts the system where, and that's not unique to the last revelation, Quran being the last revealed book, that this is a consistent law that is in all books that were revealed, that usury or interest is not allowed. So you go to the Bible, you go to any book. Even the philosophers used to say that this is the most unnatural way of making money. Even Shakespeare wrote in his book, Merchant of Venice, he talks about this merchant who charge and takes pound of flesh in Venice. So people always universally hated these bankers. And when you look at the riba, what is then this? And in the language of Bible, it's called ribit. It's like Aramaic. And so what it means is an increase from something that shouldn't produce profit. So it's a profit, but from something that shouldn't produce profit. So it's a profit from non-for-profit activity. So Islam defines commercial activities from which you derive profit and non-commercial or charitable activities where the aim is to help somebody. So giving loans to people is charitable act. You should not try or seek to profit or gain something from that. So if you want to profit from something, the companions asked the Prophet ﷺ, what's the best way to make a gain or a profit? And he said, anything that you make with your own hands and any legitimate sale. So you need to produce something with your own hands that people need. So you create a value, people give you their money. And that's how you create a profit. It has to be exchange of something that is tangible. So I produce bread, I make a car, I make a phone, I write a book. Okay, here is something that you find valuable in exchange for the money. And so when you look at interest, when people give a loan, here's the money, that Islam treats as a act of charity. And so why would somebody take a loan? Because they are in a need. So why we shouldn't commercialize somebody in trouble?
In this
That
case,
person is the charity.
Just to jump in, you're not talking about sadaqah or zakat, but like a loan one-on-one. So you exchange the money for the same amount of money back. So it's still a kind of a charity, right? In that
It's
sense.
still considered charity, yes. So there is no difference between these two, except the outcome. So both giving somebody $100 as a charity and he takes it is charity, and giving somebody loan that he returns is also charity. Actually, in this case, when you give $100, you are written as you gave $100. When you give charity $100, it's written like you gave half as a charity. Because it's a big deal, big deal. You're giving up money and maybe it comes 1 year later or something. Mm-hmm. You still don't have the money. Maybe come, maybe doesn't, maybe you forgive, maybe, you know, maybe so many maybes here. And so Islam wants to here separate. If you want to make money, then you need to involve yourself in some kind of commercial activities, which is through a sale or a trade, as we normally know what is commercial. You have to sell something real. Selling money for money is not commercial activity. You're not doing anything. This is what we call synthetic transaction. There is nothing created here. So me and you could sell each other money back and forth, and a couple of people, 10 people in the class, on the paper, all make profit, but at the end of the day, none of us have done anything. This is where the main idea comes, that money for money is one transaction, and money for asset or something else is another transaction. And Islam says that if you have money for money, then it has to be one-to-one. And if you have money for something else, you buy in the car or something like that, then you can make profit for that. And that's your everyday business activity. And so Islam differentiates. Here you make profit, here you cannot make profit. Islam does not want to incentivize commercializing charity work. Just like you don't want to make general charity, you don't want to make way to make profit from that charity. Feeding the poor, feeding the orphans. You don't want to make it commercial as a commercialized activity. So it's a charity. It's a charity act. We shouldn't seek profit. Like you have now, non-for-profit organization, like Red Cross. It's not for the profit. You know, it doesn't make sense. And so this is where Islam, in its wisdom, is separating and safeguarding economic system, where incentives are always to really focus your mind, make profit from providing benefit to the people, and stay away from this lazy way of making money. Because why it's lazy? Because you're not doing anything. Anybody can give money and ask money more. And so at the end of the day, entire economic system suffer when we stop this circulation of the money. And any healthy society is healthy because it has the business people who are constantly moving the money, innovating, investing, trying something, failing, trying. They have attitude towards risk different than somebody who is scared to take any risk. And so as a system, it benefits from that movement, even though many fail in business, but it creates the jobs and innovation and moves you forward. This is what we want to do. This is what we don't want to do. And this is the huge wisdom. You know, once you start unraveling, then you find the huge wisdom in how it filters in the rest of the system. But this is just very top level view.
Right. Maybe we can sort of look at how, because the world operates differently. So the world's finances are operating on riba. Majority of banks and insurance companies are having financial products. And maybe can you give us some examples of how the, let's say, financial industry works today on this riba principle? Maybe when we look at the mortgages or the crisis of housing in the US, what happened over there where there was something created which didn't have a sort of value for the end consumer at the end of the day. So that would be great to just unpack the riba in the real world, how it behaves.
So this is what we're talking about when money from money, just by giving loans. And then what happens is you created incentives for somebody to write loans, give loans to people who want to buy houses. For example, during global financial crisis, you write the loans and then you are able to package these loans. Now, once you package the loans, let's say you write thousands of loans for the houses, you then package them all in one. In the past, you take a loan from your bank and then you are stuck with them, for example. But now they can do something which they call collateral debt obligations, which is bundle the loans and sell it to another third party. And so
you're not talking about buying actual houses, right?
No. So basically, I give you a loan for the house, and you buy your house and everything. But I just gave you a loan, and then you owe me, let's say, double. So I give you 100,000, you owe me 200. So now in my book, I have 200 asset, which is a debt that is coming. And so I go to thousands of people, I bundle the whole contract of debt into $1 billion, let's say, derivative, which they call, or CDOs, collateral debt obligation. And so this money is coming in the future. So now what I can do, I can take that cash flow and I can sell it for some other, let's say $1.1 billion. Okay, so I have $1 billion of loans, which in the future 20 years will give me $2 billion. And so I can now sell that for and make a profit, let's say $100 million. So I say to this investment house, I say, okay, take this $2 billion future contracts in the future and give me now 100 million and you can take it, plus what I put in, which is $1 billion. And so I quickly start selling, again, money for money. So what starts happening is that this lazy way looks at putting and entrapping more and more people in this loan. So you create something fictional and then you sell it to another fictional entity and so on. I will take insurance on these houses. Okay, and these houses, I insure them all for $1 million. These houses are made from very bad material. They are not worth even $50,000. But I take $1 million insurance, or I take insurance on a house that I don't even have. So all of these situations create incentives for me to burn down the house that I don't own, badly made house that I have made insurance of 10 times what is worth. So in the same way, Riba creates opportunities, avenues for people to create financial product, and they are removed from the risk. All I need to give you this loan, which then I will bundle and then I'll sell to this third person. You understand? So as somebody once explained it, he says, imagine if you go for a horse racing and then people are betting on these different horses, and you say to the people, look, bet on my horse because he will be the best, he's the best horse. But here you are feeding horse chocolate and Pepsi, and he's very unhealthy horse. So you're feeding this horse all kind of junk, but you're telling people this will be the best horse, tomorrow he's going to win. So from the outside it looks good, but once that horse goes on the field and start running, you see that he can't even run, he can't even walk, because it's very toxic, very unhealthy. It's not fed from anything. So this is one example where in today's economy, what we have successfully done is we created so much debt. Everything is sold through a debt, that the amount of debt in the system is massive. It's simply growing more than your real economy, because now everybody can make money faster and moving money around. These banks have perfected moving money around, gathering large amounts of some debts from credit cards or different kinds of loans, and then selling it to somebody, and they sell it to somebody else. No one is doing anything, yet everybody is profiting. So this, if you look at the amount of debt, it's 20 times bigger than a real economy because it grows, it gives birth. So the debt, $1 gives $2 debt. And then, this is like money giving birth. So money start giving birth and then suddenly you have so much debt. Who's going to repay this debt? Entire planet cannot repay the whole of the debt. Where is the profit going to come from? If we can't repay it, if this all is growing and somebody demands a profit, then that put pressure on the real economy. So suddenly you find yourself in real economy because so much pressure from fake economy. You see these corporations, instead of making real products to compete with this fake economy, but they can't make that level of profit. So they start making fake food. And so it's real, but it's synthetically made, just some sugar and fat and colors. And so why they do it is to make that profit. So corporation now looks how much the banks are making and investors are looking at the return on the money from money. They say, well, we want same return from real economy, but real economy cannot do that. This is only coming because you are making fictional products. And so what they do then, this creates incentives or push real economy to start making fake food, fake everything. You look at now these tomatoes, you don't know what you're eating. Doesn't taste like anything because it's made and then they're genetically modifying and playing games. And how can we now make a food on the button? Fake meat, fake vegetables, everything is fake. How can we grow it in a lab? We have enough of the lab. We want to grow it in the earth. You understand? But these people, what they want to make now, they want to be trillionaires from the making fake food. Under the excuses we want to feed the world population and all of these things. But in reality, they are competing with the interest-based system that returns fake profit from fake transaction. And so we are replicating that in a real economy where we are returning the fake, we are producing fake real things to match the fake returns in monetary economy. And so at the end of the day, look at what we have, how much now we have cancer and allergies and everything is allergic. You get allergic reaction from the nuts, from the milk, from the honey and everything. Look at honey. They make honey, they put all kinds of syrups inside and the oils all kinds of sugar and stuff. And people start getting allergies and all kinds of things from honey because it's half of it is fake stuff mixed up. And in Germany, they have a lab, one of the top labs just for the honey. Thousands of fake honeys. One of them, I remember watching on one of these, they were showing how the flowers, they were so much spraying with these antibiotics and everything to do something to this flower where these bees are going, that the honey started absorbing some of the antibiotics that the bees pick up from flower, and kids who were drinking that honey, they started being resistant on antibiotics. And for example, in US, just a few weeks ago, I read honey in the US, most of it is radioactive, has a small percentage from the, I think, a couple of hundred atomic bombs that went off there as a test in US, radiation affected honey. So if you Google it, it's shocking. So
I think you're saying that there's a relationship between this fake economy and real economy, because then the fake economy forces the real economy to produce fake products because it's 20 times less of the size. And so it's really important for people to understand that, like, what things you see around you, that's like just 1/20th of what's really out there in terms of financial products. Is actually much bigger. And in the example you were saying, where let's say you have a bundle of loans that bank creates, and then so the incentive is really to have consumers buy into those loans. That's their incentive, because that's how they get the cash flow, and then sell it to another financial institution for some profit on top of it. But the problem is, if the consumer is unable to pay the cash, that's the problem, right? that's when the whole loan kind of falls apart, or the whole product is kind of like fake. Well, it's still fake, but it kind of corrupts the system because it can no longer produce the cash flow.
So the problem here originally is that you have a bank that does not have any risk exposure. So that middleman there does not have any exposure. So initially they go through the normal customers who can pay the loans. Then they figure out that I don't really need a good customer to create a bundle. I need any customer because I can make money from anything. Once they finish one side, then they move to the other side because they don't have a risk. So they will give you 2 years to pay off honeymoon rates, and they don't care if you can pay or not, because like a hot potato, they will dump you to another person. You are now a responsibility of this other person.
Yeah.
So this is where we created a system where you are disconnected from your actions. If I can do anything and make money and never face my consequences, well, eventually there will be some either reckless, negligent people or evil people who will follow through with that. Not everybody has a good incentive. Some people don't care. Mm-hmm. Like, look at these big Ponzi schemes. You think, oh, how can people lie billions of dollars? And people lie. People do all kinds of things. Just last night, I was watching, what's his name? Lance Armstrong, the doping, where he talks how he went and lied openly, and they ask him, how could you just lie? And he said, well, I got caught up in it. So just because we can't lie or think about it doesn't mean other people don't find it like a very natural habitat for them to tell you anything you want. Mm-hmm. So you want to remove these incentives from economy. You want people to be faced with the risk. So this is a natural, when you have a skin in the game, when you force both of our hands. You see, if we're holding the hands, then if we go in the fire, both of us burn. You understand? But if only your hand goes to fire, then I don't care. I will put your hand in fire if I make a profit. But then Islam says, no, come together, both hands together. Now, let's see if you want to go to fire together or not. Mm-hmm. Now you say, no, let's not do that. That's not a very good thing. So this way, you have built-in risk management. So that bank will not just do foolish things for profit, but because they're exposed to the risk, they will be very careful.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
So Islam basically goes right at the beginning of this and stop this behavior from even happening. It doesn't even allow it because it knows, like, if it even is allowed and regulated, it still doesn't work. Like, we have to cut it in even the beginning.
You have to cut it in a root. Mm-hmm. It's in the principle. So the what is, because sometimes people, like anything, some people drink and they say, oh, but it's very good for my kidneys or my something. It's good for the system. Especially in our countries, they have this idea, although it's proven to be fake. But let's say a glass of wine, a lot of people think it's good for you. Okay, all right. But how many people drink glass of wine? 1, 2, 3, then drink, driving, family violence, gambling. 99% of people end up either harming themselves or somebody, or they are danger, or the detrimental impact on them. So this is how it is. That's why even Allah says in Quran that they ask you about wine and gambling. Say in them there is some benefit for people, but the harm of it is overwhelming. So don't do it.
When the economy collapses, let's say if the government bails out the banks, if this is the sort of solution that is good, I'm talking about just like not Islamic economy, or what do you think? How can we pay for this debt otherwise? Like, who can, help get rid of it?
Unfortunately, this is where the hypocrisy of the whole system is. System is supposed to be capitalism, and in capitalism there should be minimum government intervention. If you run a good business, you run a good business. If you don't run a good business and fail, you bad luck for you. And so the problem here is that suddenly America, which is supposed to be the center of capitalism, became like socialist country, which started bailing out. So this is a communist system, socialist system. So one of the economists, Nouriel Roubini, he said, when it comes to the profit, you are capitalist. When it comes to losses, you are socialist, meaning you spread the losses amongst the people. But profit you keep for yourself. So this is that hypocrisy. There is no consistency. Only consistency is do what makes sense for you. How you gonna profit maximum. And so because you can control, most of these bankers are very close to the government, these decisions by government are correlated with interests of these banks. And on one side, it is true that letting these big banks to fail, it could have detrimental impact. But unfortunately, it's not like they really want to change that. They have a system and they are not intending to change it. So when it comes to who loses, at the end of the day, taxpayer, ordinary people had to pay for these bailouts. And a lot of people lost a lot of money on these things.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, if when I was kind of looking at that, it's like everybody's gonna get a house as like a loan, and then they cannot pay it. Obviously, this creates a problem. So yeah, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of problems. But how does, like, if I package a loan, let's say $1 billion, and I sell it to another financial institution, don't they recognize that my consumers or the loans are not really in the best shape, or you know? Because they have to do some due diligence or something.
So they have a rating agency who provide rating, AAA and so on. And sometimes they start slicing these, they package and repackage loans, and they get these rating agency who are just paid to provide the rating. So there's a lot of them. It's a non-binding. You are not responsible for this rating. It's just your opinion of what kind of a risk is inside. And a lot of these organizations, they didn't do a good job in disclosing a lot of what was happening. At the same time, these became so complicated that most of the people didn't understand what they are buying. So you start bundling something and then something else, and then it's all kind of paper. So it's bundle in the bundle. And at the end of the day, most of people don't even understand. So when the Harvard Business School did the review of what went wrong, they found in terms of the governance that some of the most top directors of these banks, they didn't even have appreciation for the risk. They did not understand the nature of these derivatives at all. So they were engaging in these risky financial products without understanding the underlying risk, what they were buying into.
Makes sense. And so if we look at the riba, it kind of grows over time. That's the whole like point, like you buying time, right? With that. So how does, if I'm a Muslim and I need to buy a house, let's say, or something, how can I figure this out? I have never been into a Muslim country like myself. I live in a non-Muslim country in Europe, in Czech Republic. But anyways, if I'm from a Muslim country, maybe there's some Islamic banks. But how does it actually work in practice? If you want to do like a mortgage or something like that under like Islamic rules, because there's an exchange of 1-to-1, no surplus. So maybe if you can briefly explain it.
So idea here is that you want bank and the customer to be like jointly to come together and do some sort of a business transaction where it's not just between them money for money. So the bank must buy something and then convert that money into asset. And then with the asset, they sell the asset to the customer and make money from that. So that exposes them to the risk, that links them up with the real economy. And so the bank would have to take either as a partner or a fully own a house. And then they would sell that, let's say in ideal circumstances, as a partners. And therefore, they would have some percentage of partnership, what we call equity, and other side would also have partners. So if, for example, price is going up or down, or banks wants to get rid of the house, they are partner. They are getting rid of their own part. And you want to tie the bank and the customer so that bank cannot do anything irrational or detrimental. Like a lot of banks would just, especially in US, once this started happening, they started selling the homes just to recover their own debt.
Mm-hmm.
And what you want to do is you don't want to have situation where bank benefit from selling house for any price just to get their debt. But if you tie them through ownership, what you are doing, and that's an ideal situation, if you tie them with ownership, then they cannot just dump house in the crisis. They need to sell it because they can only get the part of the sale that they are owner of. So if you are 50-50 with the bank, in the normal bank can just sell the house for the half price, get their half and forget you. But here, if banks sell house for the half price, well, they only get the 50%, whatever price they sold it. So they will lose. So again, you tie them that they have to work in your interest. So you want your interest and the bank's interest to align, to come together. You don't want to be on the opposite sides.
Right.
And that is the idea that you want to help people. Okay, you want to profit from this. You want to sell me the house. All right, let's do it in a fair way that both of us are tied in this together.
So they make profit of the actual selling of the house, the bank? Is there a profit?
So they can make a profit by selling you the house, by renting you the house while you are selling it. For example, if you are, let's say, you buy 20%, they buy 80%. So you rent 80% of the house that is theirs.
Okay.
And they make a profit from that rent. And while you're renting, you slowly buying little bit by little bit. So you buy 10%, now they are 70% owners, and then you pay rent for the 70% of the house. And then slowly over time, you're buying more and more percent until, and more house you own, less rent you pay. Because now, after, let's say, 10 years, you have 70% of the house. Their house is now 30% owned. So you pay rent for 30%. So now more of your money can be in buying more and more shares of the house.
Right.
You understand? So over the time, you buy whole 100%.
So the difference between this and a regular mortgage is that they don't make the riba on top of this, right?
So the difference between this would be that in the regular mortgage, banks just give you money, and the purpose for money is you buying the house.
Yeah, they don't own the house.
Between you and them, yeah. So between you and them is just the loan, money for money. And so they have nothing to do with it. And here, the bank cannot just give you money. They need to sell you the house. So it's money for the house. Here is money for money. Okay.
So it's actually possible not to just, because I've heard stories like as a Muslim, you have to buy 100% of the house, which is kind of impossible today, right? Like to have so much money in, let's say, if you're 25, to buy a house just like out of cash. But you're saying that it's possible to, let's say, do 20% first, and over time, over 10 or 20 years, buy the rest of the house through paying the rent. It's kind of how it could work. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So there is. This is just one example. There could be other examples, but that it is possible. That's how the banks work. They make so zero interest doesn't mean zero profit. So you make profit, but not from money to money. You make profit from money for something else. So I can sell you house, make a profit, but I cannot sell you the money. So money to be useful must be converted to something else. And then that something else is sold.
So they can make money from the rent, for example, or something.
From the rent, from the service, from the product, so whatever is real, not like faking it, just writing, this is interest, this is rent. No. You need to buy it. You need to provide something. Money must become something else.
And so what's the incentive of the bank in this case?
Well, the bank will make a profit. So let's say a bank buy a house for $100,000. Let's say you are renting it, so bank makes the money. Then you buy ownership. So let's say 1 year they rent you house. Okay, they make money. Next year you buy the whole house. Well, they get their money back, what they invested, and they profited from. Just like now, you have a lot of investment, real estate investment trust. What they do, they buy the property and just rent it. They make money like that. They are not selling it.
Right. So the price of the house stays. There's maybe inflation differences during the years, I guess, and then when you purchase the house back, it kind of gets into the overall price.
Yeah, usually the price stay the same. It could depends on the system, but usually in many of the systems, especially here, let's say in Australia, you cannot do that. You cannot increase. That would be seen unethical in terms of the legally. They would see, because they look at it as a loan, then that would increase, and so it's not as easy. So usually price for various reasons stay the same. So okay, this $100,000 house, it's always the stay. So if you want to buy it, this is 1% is $1,000, and then any rent that you're paying, it's a profit for the bank, and then at the end of the day they get their money back.
Got it. Is this can this work in a non-Muslim country, this system? Not maybe as a bank, maybe as a real estate fund, I don't know, but like, have you seen this in non-Muslim country working, this sort of?
Yeah, many this can work. These things work, and in many countries they work, and so there is no reason. I mean, most of the countries today in the world, you will have some kind of arrangements like that. And going back even to what you said about that, how riba interest is prevalent, actually most of the big businesses, the large businesses that we have today, and much of real economy is actually still not based on interest. It's actually based on investments, on what we call equity and your normal investment. So when you have startups and everything, startups go for investors, for the funders who buy shares, they invest, they don't give on interest money. So any startup you can think of, Amazon, PayPal, Google, this one, it's all a result of what we call equity finance, which is somebody put a money with a risk of making or losing it. So it's not a riba. So that is how every business is done. Any big business, any serious business, because nobody would give a loan to a small startup. So if you have any little, somebody come, Uber, you think Uber came and they said, can you give us a loan? Who would give them a loan? You don't have any collateral, nothing, just the idea on some app that you will make a taxi ride online or something. So nobody will, but who will give you money? Somebody who believes, and they put millions of dollars for the 10%. And then that maybe become hundreds of millions. You see, still even until today, that is the way we finance business, through investing in something real. And then that business grows, solves a big problem, and become valuable.
Yeah.
When people talk, oh, Amazon is, this guy is rich. He's just rich on the paper. Because we value the solutions he provided us, that what he created, this company, is now so many billions of dollars. But it's not like in the cash. There's no money in the bank. It's just this is how much value we assign to this stock. You understand? So that is how things work, even until today.
Yeah.
Even until today.
Yeah, I work with a lot of startups, and when they are raising initial funds, it's usually called angel round, where angel investor comes in and takes 10-20% of the company with a giant risk. That's like the most risky investment you can make, because most of them fail. And later on, you have Series A, Series B, Series C, and the risk gets lower, but the equity gets lower as well. But you get like bigger rounds, billions of dollars. But yeah, it's still majority of startups that I know operate like this, for sure.
And that's what we want to see. We want to see any country, any ecosystem where culture of entrepreneur is welcoming of the risk will be more successful. As you say, 10 will fail, 1 will succeed, and so on. And so it's a numbers game, and it's developing your skills to do it more efficiently and effectively. And so this creates a very positive effect on overall economy. And this is how economy is very agile. It responds quickly.
Creates innovation.
Where you don't have that, if you don't have that responsiveness and that risk taking, then the whole system and economy will collapse.
Right.
You will get old economy and doesn't do anything, and you will have it still in your little taxi, and there is Uber there running around. You know, like it will collapse.
Yeah. No, I think especially Muslims should think really deeply about this topic, because a lot of them, I don't know, I'm missing, at least from the looking outside, and now I'm part of the community, this entrepreneurial spirit from this community. I hope that this can be something we can revive back, and be also like proud in this economy and stuff like that. Maybe would you say that Islam is, because I have a hard time to put it, is Islam capitalistic or socialist? Like, how would you categorize it from that perspective?
So each of these two systems, they have idea what they're trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
So there are underlying values, and there is an outcome that they want to achieve. And so and both of these systems, they have very different idea of society that they want to ideally to have. So at the root of all are certain values that you believe in. So Islam is not fair to describe it as this or that. It's its own independent view, and I have written a lot about that and created a model that compares the three systems and show that there are some elements in capitalism that are working well, which cause a lot of people to say, okay, see, Islam does not allow for fixing of the prices on the market. Islam is like Adam Smith used to, they call him father of economics,
Yeah.
And then why is that? Well, because freedom in the market and allowing people to trade and then negotiate price and so on. So free market economy is his child. But if you look before Adam Smith, Muslim scholars 300-400 years ago, before him, Ibn Hadul in his book Muqaddimah, here I have the book, just here on my desk. He, in this book, you see, he discusses 400 years before Adam Smith about the same ideas, which before him the Prophet ﷺ, and in Quran is this kind of freedom. And so sometimes people mistakenly say, okay, see, Islam is capitalist because it's allow profit making and so on. But at the same time, people will look at Medina and the way that rich were behaving, and wealth distribution through the zakat or charity or institution of endowment, waqf, or even inheritance system, which breaks down wealth in very specific way. So they'll say, see, Islam wants wealth to be circulated, this and that, therefore it's socialist. But they are missing that these are all different components. And they come, maybe they match or intersect in one part, but they are very different. So when we describe Islamic economic system, we say, yes, in this aspect, capitalism, for example, allow human initiative and then human nature to own and produce and be rewarded for that is better than what socialism is doing, which is collectively centralized decisions. So at the end of the day, you have somebody in the central party saying how many cows we need how many chicken, how many liters of milk we need, and you know how many grams of cacao should be in a chocolate is optimal. So you have a politician deciding how to mix a cake for you, what cake you should have, or how many grams of chicken in the sandwich. You know, like, what is that like? You understand? Do whatever you want. You know, like, let people free. So this. We own everything. This destroys incentives. That's why all of these socialist countries destroy themselves, because nobody owns anything. Nobody want to do anything if there is no consequences of your actions, if there is no reward. Okay.
Yeah.
At the same time, in the capitalism, there are no values, because in the past 100, 200 years, when these ideas was Christianity and values, let's say in Europe and other countries, they were still alive. So you still had some values, even though Christianity is and all of these religions dying, you know, let's say in Europe, in America, Western world. But even culturally, a lot of values remained as a cultural effect. So we didn't see so bad impact of capitalism. But when those values started now with this generation, last couple of decades, to disappear. You don't respect the parents, don't worry about the poor, don't feed any, you know, very egoistic, self-centered, don't care about anybody society. Then the worst of capitalism came, which is just me, make us maximize the profit. And therefore people lost the trust. They say, well, how can we trust this system that is losing the sight of the faith, of the values of generosity, doesn't have that. So, you know, just like here, we lost incentives of human nature to own and be productive. Here, we lost incentive of the faith to be generous. You understand? So one lost one, another one lost another thing. And only Islam looks at it from the both angle. It says that there is a portion for the poor that you need to take care of from your wealth. So that cuts extreme. But at the same time, you should be free to pursue and make lawful income from these activities. And so it balances these incentives to create a wealth and incentives to give. And this is where the beautiful balance is. So you have the both best of the both. And this is where the balance is. So you want that balance.
Yeah, because the incentive to help poor is not practical in the modern world. It doesn't make sense economically to help a poor. I lose money.
Because they don't believe it. They don't believe in any incentive. What do I get if I help the poor?
You get nothing in the real world.
I get nothing, Yeah,
in dunya you
so
get nothing.
That's why they say, if once I get rich, it will trickle down to you. This is just a fake story, just to say, don't bother me, you know? It's not untrue what they're saying. It is that true. I mean, how else the wealth is going? It's going up. It does trickle down. But not because you're rich, it's because you're generous. You believe in what you're doing. So even if you have a $2, it trickles down. Half go down. $100, half go down. You know, $10 billion, some go down. It's always trickle down, but from the generous hand, not from the stingy hand that doesn't put the dollar in the pocket, and that dollar doesn't see the light of the day anymore. It's not going to trickle anywhere.
But that's the thing that if you don't have Islam or faith, it's a problem, because you don't see the benefit, you don't see the incentive. As I was an atheist, so I don't get nothing for that. I'm losing $50 if I give $50. But as Allah says, like if you put in charity, I'll give you more. You'll get 1,000% return. Like, but not here. So that's like the incentive is faith based, it's spiritual, and if people don't have that, it's not gonna work.
That's right.
It's not
you lose the soul. You lose the soul. I just worry about myself. You disconnect yourself. And what starts happening with the rich people, that's why you see they're killing themselves and so unhappy, is that when you are, I don't know if this happened to you, but like if you look at the people in general, and like I give this example. When my daughter bought a car after she passed her driving test, she bought the Honda Civic. And I say, until that time, I never saw Honda Civic. I didn't notice that car at all on the streets. But once she bought it, I start noticing that car everywhere I go. And this is how, I don't know, in almost everything, as soon as you do something, you start noticing that. Now, if people don't do any act of charity, they will not notice that other people are charitable as well. Good. So what starts happening is people look through themselves to other people. They are stingy, they are miserly, they are non-charitable. So what do they see? They see that everybody is like that then. So they develop in their mind that if everybody is like me, that's terrible. If I tomorrow need anything, nobody will help me because I don't help anyone, no one will help me. So they live in constant fear that what if tomorrow I'm in the situation I need, nobody will help me, I need to depend on myself. And that cycle makes them so small. They feel so small.
Yeah, that's
somebody who's generous and charitable, he gives and gives and gives. And he said, look, there are so many good people because he noticed the good in others, in people. So he says, even tomorrow, if I don't have enough, if something happens, there are always charitable people who will help me. And so he became relaxed. And so as you start living and understanding, you basically start investing yourself in other people, in the rest of your community. And so what happens is that you invest yourself in your community, you see other people, the happiness of the community is your happiness. And also if you are unhappy, they absorb some of your unhappiness. And so you will live much more connected life. And at the end of the day, you know, there is another aspect in the money. It's not just numeric aspect. It's what we call a blessing. Money has its own blessings. Sometimes like a time or health or money, everything has what we call barakah, which is blessing. Blessing is the secret ingredients which make something more than what it is. So sometimes you best with time. Sometimes you go through your day, you have 10 things to do. You don't have a blessing in a day because once the whole day passed, you haven't done anything. But you and me both have the same amount of hours and the minutes. But this person finished 10 things and happy and everything. I'm still on my first thing and I didn't do anything. And I say, where did this day go? I just wasted it. I didn't do anything. And now I have another 5 more things to do. And that's like with the money. You start with this many dollars, but you spend it just like you spend time, but nothing. I'm not happy. I'm not content. Doesn't do anything. I feel still small. I still feel. And that's how it is. It does not produce benefit. You don't feel. Even you have bigger bed, big house, big car, big lunch, big. You doesn't satisfy you. So this is the another secret ingredient in the things of this life. Relationship don't work, happiness doesn't work, food doesn't work, friends don't work. You understand? So your time, your wealth, everything, you bored of it. You bored. Then people take drugs, that's why you see these famous people. They die in sleep. They need a doctor every night to inject them just to sleep and forget. Because there is no blessing. There is no blessing. It doesn't do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't do it for you anymore. You forgot yourself. You forgot what you're doing. And so this is where balance, Allah, this is a mystery. This is what I'm saying. This life is a mystery. How to balance it. It's not immediately going to reveal itself to you. You need to study it. You need to pay attention. What will make me happy? What will work? You know, so these are the secrets of life and the mystery, how it's all linked together. And so you need to take it as a full recipe. Sometimes you don't see why this, why that, but when you put it together, it starts making sense.
Yeah. I can just tell you, once I started implementing Islam or in my life, just personally, everything is better. Like everything is much better than just 6 months ago, you know. But yeah, and like when somebody gets cancer and they are dying, like the last thing they do usually, they give out charity, all their money, everything, because they know like this is gonna help them. Like this is, and but we don't do it because you think you're healthy or you don't have to do it. So again, like this society doesn't have incentive in, because they don't have this spiritual connection or faith in anything. I'm not saying you have to be a Muslim, but if you, most people I know, they don't even believe in God or anything. So that's even worse. And so in terms of just like capitalism or socialism, I think Islam is like, it's neither, it's from Allah. So it's not this or that, it's from Allah. That's kind of how you explain it. And I'm very curious about, I think a lot of people, especially in this country or Czech Republic, Slovakia, where I'm from, people are in debt. A lot of people have loans from loan providers, not just banks. And people are like in this usury mindset, or they have a lot of like, they just think about it all the time. I know some of my family members, and I think a lot of principles from Islamic banking could really work here if they were actually targeting the non-Muslim population, because I believe the best dawah also is to improve the society you live in actively, in like a direct effect on society. If something has like you build a homeless shelter, or you build a hospital as an Islamic hospital, or you provide Islamic banking to people, people will see like, oh, what is this 0% interest? Like, how can this work? And they become interested in this through directly interacting with some of the ideas in Islam. I think this is very powerful, and Islam has many of these ideas, but no one's doing them. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm very excited to really look into this, because yeah, I think this can work a lot in these sort of even countries where people don't like Muslims, let's say.
Yeah. Absolutely agree.
Right. Yeah, so I think we talked about a lot of things. I think I have some ideas about Bitcoin and everything, but we can maybe leave that in the future, because this is like a completely new topic. I was just, maybe last question, do you think like this whole concept of Islamic banking and the economy based around Islam could ever made its way to, let's say, a non-Muslim country, or even like in a Muslim country? Can it kind of come back and become like a different, let's say, scale, on the scale of like, let's say you have the modern economy that's based on Riba and everything, and then you have like the Islamic economy. Can it ever compete? Or yeah.
Look, if you look at the economies today, you will not find capitalism anywhere. If you look at the socialism, you will not find socialism anywhere. You'll have some people who using these terms to enrich themselves. And what you will find is you'll find politicians who will reduce capitalism to how much tax we take or don't take. And just they will play with this idea just only in the minds of people. Like you go to US and they say, oh, we want less government, less tax, this and that. Okay, well, when you are in the government, do you do it? No, you print more money, you do everything you're saying. So these are just empty words. Just like a lot of Muslims, they take their principle in their books and put them in the bookshelf. This is how these people do. They take a capitalism and everything in the book and put it on the bookshelf, and then they do whatever they want.
Yeah, it's funny with the less government, like they say like less government, but more military spending. Like doesn't make any sense. Like these Republicans,
Well, look, these people are fed from this military complex. Military and more they can spend. That's why you will see that most of these generals, politicians, soon they become heads of various funds, and many of these funds produce weapons, and they are government contractors and so on. So we are talking about trillions of dollars that they benefit. I mean, nothing wrong in the country being very strong. Every country is trying to do that, but what we are talking about is that you have a government who will politicize the issue for their own benefit. And the reality is that they are there to benefit themselves. So at the end of the day, all of these governments will do whatever it takes, some less, some more. So look at the China. Is it socialist or capitalist? Well, when it suits them, it's here is capitalism, here is socialism, whatever works.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So they will do. They don't have a principle here any longer, and that's why it's very important to understand that in this current society, we need to produce people who will be able to have something different about them. Because no matter what kind of system you have, it all comes down to the people. Who are the people that we are dealing with? Who believes in these things? Mm-hmm. And so the resource that you want to be a king is the human resource. This is the resource that utilize other resources in the country. So that's why, you see, if you go once a group of companions, Prophet's companions, they were sitting in the gathering, and one of them asked them to wish for something. And one of them said, I wish I have so much money, let's say, gold and silver, and like this whole room. Another one says, okay, what do you want? They say. He says, well, I want to have a whole room full of like these diamonds, let's say. And anyway, he asked one by one, what do you want? And each of them tried to compete to fill the room with more valuable commodities like money, gold, silver, diamonds, gems, in order to give it as a charity. And so until he come to this last one, and he asked him. And before he answered, he said to him, look, how, and who was asking? Umar, one of the great companions. He asked him, okay, he sees Umar is asking one by one, but he is not getting the answer he wants. Everybody is giving similar answer. I want more money, more money, more money to give. So he asked, okay, what would you wish for if you could make a wish? So Umar said, I wish this room full of people like such and such and such. So he started giving the names of people. So he, rather than focusing on money, the room full of money to give it away, he said, I wish a room full of high quality people. Like this. He gives some names. Because he understands that a real resource of the society are people. So what we want to do is we want to work on people, we want to work on ourselves, and then we want to deploy these resources. These are the real resources who will then utilize the rest, who will be able to put it. The justice that we seek cannot come from people who neglect justice in their own life, with themselves, with the God. Because you see, the justice comes to put everything in its right place, in order. And injustice is to put wrong things in the wrong place or mix up the things. So from the first, injustice is to misplace who we believe in God, for example, assigning certain partners or mixing up who is the God. So that's a first injustice, down to everything else, to how we mismanage our money, how we mismanage our economy, how we mismanage our family, ourselves, health, and others, free time, and so on. So what we want is to have the right people, at the same time, not like, okay, let's stop everything and then we have 100% people. No, but like these people, they have to be involved again. These people, they have to be active, like you say. So the Muslims in today's society, they have to be very active. They cannot be people who are waiting for somebody to give them. They have to realize that this is the world divided in givers and takers. You can't be just taker, meaning consumer. You have to be producer. And just today I recorded a podcast about it. I was talking with some students, and And I try to explain, that's why we say upper hand is better one, because it's producing and giving and so on. So this is what then influence society and builds your capacity or skill to engage even more. Like you said, these startups and so on. So more you do it, more you're comfortable doing it, you get better, and you can take on bigger challenges. And so having the right people running these projects, it's a big blessing for the whole society. And that's how slowly change takes shape. And that's how we work together in that direction.
Yeah, I never thought about it this way, that actually humans are the stock of the world, that's the economy, not the products themselves, but the human quality of human being, right? So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm very excited to look more into these topics, and maybe even be in touch in the future if I put together a pitch deck for investors or something with these ideas about these banks over here. Yeah, I would be very happy to stay in touch. But where do you want people to go if they want to ask you a question or connect with you online? Do you have a website or something where they can follow you?
They can just Google my name and find, I have a podcast, Islamic Finance podcast, that is a weekly podcast and talks about a lot of these issues. Now it's in the 3rd season. Also on the YouTube, there are a lot of videos about these kind of things, maybe 100 or 150 videos or something, various channels. But my channel, we have maybe, I don't know, 80, 90 or something like that. We are going to start, I believe, very soon, Introduction to Islamic Finance 101, as a YouTube course as well. And going through some of these basic principles and ideas. So looking forward to that, inshallah.
Yeah, definitely. If somebody's listening or watching, go and sign up for the course if this is something that interests you, because we need more Muslims who can make money or distribute money or just be business people as well. So yeah, thank you so much, Jazakallah Khair, for being here, and yeah, hopefully we'll stay in touch.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.